Turn down a little. That's Satellite of Love by Lou Reed. Lou Reed famously talked about how great music should be simple. Some of his best songs are 2 chords, some 3. I like me some Lou Reed and Velvet Underground while we're at it.
There he is.
There's Cabana. Cabana, can you introduce everybody? I was filling in time with some Lou Reed Satellite of Love music. That's how the Skittles call, right? Like, okay. And for Dan, you sell satellites of love.
Oh yes, oh yes. We are in the satellite loving business. That's right.
Cabana, take it away, please.
Oh, I don't even know what you've taken care of so far.
I've done nothing except
literally nothing. Not much.
Yeah, we've done nothing. I've been listening to music that nobody recognizes. That's about it.
Few people know that Lou Reed was also featured on the Friends soundtrack. So there you go. As well as Toad the Wet Sprocket. And what's another gem that was on there? Hootie and the Blowfish, but everybody knows that one. So.
Well, and the Rembrandts, they say.
Well, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. That's yeah.
But which is actually the worst. I only know 2 Rembrandt songs, and the Friends theme is the worst one. I don't really like that.
I forget who I was with, and the song was actually on the radio, and they started in the second verse, and the girl looked at me and was like, "What is this?" Like it was a mystery thing. She just thought it ended at the 30 seconds or whatever. So it's like hilarious.
Cody, can you sing the Friends theme song for us? We'd love
to. Bryce, I know you want me to. I know you enjoy when I sing. Bryce has to listen to me sing, and it's not good. It's not good. My singing is better than my driving, but I'm bad at both.
Boy.
Yeah. Good thing you have FSD then.
Yeah, that is right. It actually is. It helps me stay safe. I'll be using it today when I drive to Ruidoso. At any rate, Cabana, come on.
Okay. Up there yelling at me is Cody Willard, who is the founder of this crypto show, tradingwithcody.com, who just wrapped up his tradingwithcody.com weekly call, which was yet another informative call. That is my dog, Cameron, who is barking. You may or may not hear him. In the middle, we have Bryce, hedge fund analyst up there, who, along with Cody and I, were chartists for like 60 seconds and identified that Robinhood could look really juicy above 13.5 or 14.
No, he literally said that same number to me today. He goes, man, Robinhood needs to close above 1350 or it's never never breaking out. And
they'll have to wait another quarter, maybe. I don't know.
Well, we're 13 cents away. 13 cents away.
I was watching it last night, and it was like 1370, 1380, and I'm like, come on, hold here, and then I think Vlad came on CNBC and talked it up. He must have, because the stock went back above 13 ever since he spoke. I didn't see the interview or anything, but anyway, that's the CEO of Robinhood. Dan Geraci, CEO of Freefall Aerospace and Show and Tell Extraordinaire, if you missed last week's episode, which we all learned quite a bit.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
And our favorite
Satellites of Love.
That's right, Satellites of Love. And our favorite poster collector, American Badass CEO or of something. The CEO of Badasses?
Sure, we'll call it that. Whatever you guys want it to be. That's
Mr. Anderson.
God, he's changing those posters on a daily basis now.
No, those are the same as last week. Change. Yeah. No.
You need like a Matrix Mr. Anderson poster back there somewhere.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we've been watching you.
And there we have it covered. So what's first up today? We talking this lunar delay that is supposed to happen tomorrow now?
Well, yeah, tonight, technically. Like 1 a.m. Eastern. But
is this out of Florida?
Hopefully, Hopefully they can get this done. There's a whole bunch of us for different reasons that are anxiously awaiting them to stick the landing. So a lot of people with big potential business writing on this, both with IM and with just for lunar. So we're all hoping that this doesn't set us back, but that they land and then they're off to the races, and we'll have another major viable commercial space company who has accomplished something great, which is to put American hardware on the moon for the first time since the mid 70s. So, yeah.
I have a question. The more successes we have with multiple companies, does that bring everybody up, or does it go like, oh, well, now they're great, and this kind of falls off?
Two things.
Like if there's 10 companies that are all amazing, does everybody grow at the same,
What'll happen is you'll get both. You're going to get a general, rising tide lifting all ships that says, hey, there's confidence that there's more successes.
Right.
Here's another de-risked commercial space enterprise where they've actually accomplished what they said. So that's a big positive. And so you get that, coming off a success, but at the same time, a lot of those other companies out there are only going to get the benefit for so much. You're still going to have a separation between companies. You're still going to have those who can versus those who don't. The positive impact on everybody is just, hey, it's been done. Someone's done it. These problems can be solved. So too can somebody else. So there's a confidence boost. But it's not going to be the difference between a non-player making it or not. They're still going to have to deliver, right?
But speaking to that bigger point that, look, I'm an active space investor, as you guys know. SpaceX is one of our biggest positions in the hedge fund, and relativity space in the private markets, Rocket Lab and Lunar in the public markets. And without a doubt, you want them all to win. Whether I own the company or not, you don't want space failures, because exactly what he's describing would keep me up at night. I'm worried that every time we try to go to the moon, it crashes, and then there's no more money to try to go to the moon in 3 years. And so the more successes that individual companies have, the more demand for launches, the more demand for space investments, because I don't think I'm certainly not the only guy on the planet that's looking. I mean, the two richest people on the planet, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, are pouring their fortunes into making us a spacefaring species. And I'm not the only guy looking around and being like, holy shit, we could have trillions of dollars of economic activity in space, going places, touring, going to the moon, doing experiments, mining stuff. Like, all that stuff is obviously very exciting, even if it's not this year. But you don't get to where we want to be in 10 or 15 or 20 years without successes driving us along the way. Space is famously hard. The more times that a company, just, like last week, or was it 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, when the Japanese tried to land a lander on the moon, and it landed upside down, and it worked a little bit, but they basically had to turn it off and not use it. And that's a major disappointment. That's crushing to the industry. And we have nothing to do with Japan investments. It's the government that, whatever. I want them to win. I want them to succeed. I want the moon to be a cool, normal thing to go to with landers and with satellites going around it, and eventually human beings, and you want it all. So yes, it's important that every time someone launches something, that it works.
Yep.
How old do you think
the U.S. that when the
hold on, Bryce. Let American Badass get one more question while we're on that topic. Don't forget it, Bryce, please.
Sorry, you were talking about travel and all this stuff. Everybody, how old do we think we would need to be today for us to have the opportunity to be part of a reasonably priced travel industry at some point in the future? Do we need to be 25 years old right now in order to be able to have that happen? Because those of us that are over 50, it's probably not going to happen for us.
No,
right?
I disagree. Give it 10 to 15 years. you and I might be in our 60s and 70s, but I plan to take Ameris to the moon someday. I plan to ride with both my kids to Mars someday. I can't imagine. Ameris, as you guys might or might not know, doesn't walk and is very fragile. But to get her somewhere, hopefully someday she's big enough and mobile enough that she could go with me to the moon and feel the lack of gravity, and she could run around. I mean, jump. It would be amazing.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's going to be 15, 20 years.
I do. 15 to 20 is probably accurate. 10's a little optimistic.
Yeah, you just got to account for setbacks and politicians and economic delays for commercial, but somewhere in there's going to be a sideways 5 years. So, it's just, I don't think it'll be uninterrupted. You'd have to have a string of successes and technological breakthroughs that would be pretty amazing to speed that up. I think the reality is going to be it'll be the safety and liability issue will be the only thing keeping the touristy end of this thing from happening any sooner, because you're going to have to sign your life away, and you're going to have to say whatever happens, and there are no claims on anybody if I get fried on the way to the moon. So, it's not going to be the easy decision that a lot of people think. A lot's going to happen before somebody says, sure, we're going to go.
But Dan, do you not disagree that in, say, 30 or 40 years, going back to American Badasses, Mr. Anderson's main point there, that within 30 or 40 years, will it be maybe not quite the same as hopping on an airplane and going from New York to LA, but not terribly different either? Like, people will casually run up to a space station for a few days for vacation.
Moon will be, I think, the ultimate destination in the near term. I think space orbiting and not being on the surface of any place will happen obviously a lot sooner. There's a whole other can of worms when you put somebody outside in a suit. And so that's where I think that, you may go to the moon, but you may not be walking around on the moon. That's my point. You may be in orbit. You may get put in a rover for a little drive, and it's going to take a while.
Bryce, what was your question or comment? Bryce,
just the can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
A few weeks ago, whenever the other lunar competitor launched, that's private, I can't think of the name, but their rocket ship had the fuel leak, right? And it failed on the way to the moon.
What was the name of that company? Dan, do you remember? I can't remember. Keep going, though, Bryce. We know what you're talking about.
When stuff like that happens, and NASA has invested hundreds of millions of dollars in these, and it fails spectacularly, I mean, it gives like Congress people and government that want to cut the budget and cut NASA, gives them a good reason to do so. So even if you're a lunar Intuitive Machines fan, you don't want to see any of NASA's money being wasted and give Congress an excuse to cut that budget, I would say.
Amen.
Well, they're already cutting it. I mean, they've already made some pretty serious cut recommendations for the space budgets.
Yeah.
Mars sample return, as we've talked about before. I mean, at the Planetary Society, we're putting up a big fight about this. This is just political insanity, as usual, from a bunch of short-sighted politicians that think in little, parochial segments. And so they're about to trash the biggest mission that's going on in recent history because of this. And so there's going to be a lot in the way of this going on. But even with IM, Congress, they want to see the private sector succeed, but it's because they don't want to have to put as much government money in. But at the end of the day, those private companies are carrying government payloads, and so there's a bunch of NASA hardware on this IM flight, and there will be in the future flights, and so they can't be separated completely. But Congress is going to have less and less power because less and less is going to be required of NASA for major missions. Once SpaceX goes to this next level with Starship, I don't know. I just think NASA's out of the launch business completely.
Yeah.
ULA is going to go away. They can't
ULA
sustain
just
it.
go away, Dan? You think
Well,
ULA
it'll
will
get
just
bought.
go
It'll
away?
get bought. It'll get bought. It'll get bought.
By a Lockheed will take it underneath its own
Blue.
wing, or instead of a joint
Blue.
venture, or
Blue's probably the appropriate buyer
Blue Origin,
because they
Bezos.
need that capacity. They need that capability. I think
Bezos could write a check personally.
Yeah, take it out of the petty cash account.
It's always amazing to think about the amount of wealth that like Jeff or Elon has, and then put it in regards to like the country of Turkey. We were talking about the GDP of Turkey the other day when Sanatsi was talking about that. There was a Turkish astronaut that went up. I don't remember what the number was, but it's a fraction of what Elon could write a check for. He could buy the entire country of Turkey's economy.
Oh, you can say that about a lot of countries, but yeah.
Like Apple's market cap is equivalent to like half of Europe's GDP. I might be exaggerating a little bit. Maybe it's a quarter, but it's a big freaking company, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, yes, Lunar should be launching tomorrow. Lunar's not the name of the company. Intuitive Machines is the name of the company. The stock symbol. Is
LUNR.
Us being stock guys, we call it Lunar for short. But yeah, Intuitive Machines should be doing that tomorrow. That's very exciting. Dan, when's it would take 3 or 4 weeks, 5, 6 weeks? How long before the module actually lands? 1 week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Roughly a week.
So that's be very exciting to not just see it's going on a SpaceX ship, and SpaceX, knock on wood, hasn't had they haven't had an unsuccessful launch other than Starship, which isn't still succeeding when it blows up. But it's been like 5 years since they had something blow up.
Yeah, this delay was just because the lander and lunar landers generally tend to get fueled on the pad. And so they set this up that the lander would be fueled inside the fairing, inside the rocket. And so they do that at the last minute so you don't burn off a lot of the of those gases, and you have as full a tank as possible, as close to launch as possible. And that's why. And they did 2 wet rehearsals last week, and they were perfect. They would have launched if it was last week. So, hopefully tonight they've got it all straightened out and push the button and off she goes. And, once it gets up into, Earth orbit and releases the lander, then it's off to the races. Apollo would take 3 days to get to the moon, typically 3-4 days. This has to get into the right orbit. It has to get everything set. All the systems have to be working, because it doesn't have to deploy legs. The legs are permanently deployed. This thing just makes a beeline in, and let's just hope that it's standing up and facing the right way when it lands, because there is an issue of the orientation on the landing that not many people are aware of.
Dan, you're wanting me to believe that Apollo could magically get there within 3 days, and 60 years later it takes us a week. Bryce still doesn't believe the Apollo ever got to the moon.
Hey, that's not true.
The transit time, and what's pushing you there, that was a Saturn V rocket, second stage, third stage, that they got there in a hurry. It was a very different kind of a mission. 3 days, 4 days, they'll land in a week. They'll probably get there in 3 or 4 days, and then they're going to circle. I don't know what the speed is going to be going out. It's probably going to be less than Apollo was moving at, but not much, because it still need the same velocity for lunar orbit insertion and all that happy stuff they have to do. So it's
Dan, off the top of your mind, do you know how far it is to the moon?
250,000 miles.
And off the top of your mind, do you know how far it is to Mars?
35 million, give or take, depending on where Mars is.
Wow. And then to get to the Kármán line?
Well, that's 62 miles up.
Like, it really is mind-boggling when you step back and think about the vastness of space. It's just so from here to halfway out of our solar system, it's 35 million miles.
That's not
to get
halfway out.
How about to get out of? That's not even halfway.
No, that's not halfway. You got to.
So how far to get out of the solar system, Dan? 1 billion miles?
Billions,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, that number I don't have on the top of my head. It's not up here somewhere, but don't forget. I mean,
look down. We'll tell you if it's written.
You get out past Mars and you got the asteroid belt, and then you get to the giants, the gas giants, and you've got Jupiter and you've got Saturn. That's when you get out there, you're around the halfway point, pretty much. We're in the inner solar system. Mars is considered the inner solar system. So,
Dan, I think is Intuitive Machines landing on the South Pole, and that's significant.
yeah. The South Pole is where everybody is aiming for because it's the old follow the water rule. And so the South Pole, China, you pick the country that's going to the moon. Everyone wants the South Pole. They want the ice. So they have water, they have oxygen, they have hydrogen fuel. And that's where we will see the first geopolitical issues in space. People arguing about what they laid claim to when they land. And this is going to be a nightmare. But the South Pole poses a lot of challenges because it's hard to communicate with Earth from the South Pole because you're sitting on the bottom of the moon and you've got to communicate to Earth. And there's a lot of bizarre relations in the orbits of the two, in the way the orbits line up. They're not in sync. So there's a lot of funny stuff you have to do with a satellite or a spacecraft to communicate to both. But that's.
Well, who cares about the moon when years ago when I was a little kid, I got a star for my birthday. And it's like A563.20.
Oh, do you actually own a star? That's amazing. Someone gave him a star for his birthday.
No, but I remember those ads on the radio. But
I remember that. That was funny.
Yeah, but speaking of territorial disputes, that would be hilarious.
Yes.
There's no reason for me to pull this out except I just thought of it right now. And
oh, excellent.
Starship. Let's talk a little bit about another cool topic, the Bitcoin breakout. Cabana, I had Paula, the pizza lady, who's my good friend here in rural New Mexico, who's I want to say she's in her 70s.
Is that the bonk lady or whatever it was called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's badass. I'm starting to love Paula. I've just gotten to know her over the last few months. But anyway, she's very cool. And the other day yesterday I saw her at the coffee shop and she pulled out her phone and she said, "Hey, Bitcoin's down today, but it's going to 62,000 within 11 days." And I said, "I don't know." And then she told me to buy Jupiter, the token, which I think just came out like last week or a couple of weeks ago. And I told her, no, not doing that. But then I said, I do love me that Bitcoin. Anyway, Bitcoin breaking out. Can anything stop it from going to 62,000 now, Cabana? Got through the 50,000 resistance. What's the take over there?
I don't know. I was trying to pull up a fancy dancy chart here, and I'm looking at first glance as I pull this thing up at 62K. Did she just throw a dart for that or what?
The 11 days is what gets me.
That's what I thought too. I was like, okay, the 62,000 is one thing, but the time, like the specificity of the time guess was impressive.
Was she a penny stock promoter in her heyday or something?
She told me today that she was a quarterback for her deaf high school, and she was a mermaid for a job in her 20s. So she's done it all, man.
Okay. Cody, you know this from the old days. When you work in Manhattan on Wall Street, the one thing you learn is that when the cab drivers start talking about stocks, short. So
go short.
When the cabbies are talking about the stock market, you know the market's about to roll.
The only problem is, Dan, Paul has been giving me crypto picks for the last 6 months, and I think she's generally been right. Like,
Okay.
so
Well,
I'm not judging, man. It's all good. Cabana,
Hey.
what do you got for your chart? Talk to us.
I don't know. I mean, maybe like right here, if you go back like early 2021, I mean, you got like low 60s and it barely broke 60K briefly. And maybe she's looking here at just like this confluence area over 60,000. So maybe that's, you know,
so is she looking for a breakout?
Is it different now though with all these ETFs buying and holding? I don't feel like once they're in their coffers, I don't feel like they're going anywhere. So
I don't know. I mean, I'd push back on that in some sense.
Okay.
It's going to make it easier for people to bail if and when they want to. It gets easier to get in. Bryce and I used to
liquidity.
struggle constantly every day. How are we going to figure out when will we ever just be able to buy a Bitcoin in our hedge fund? And now we got Bitcoin ETFs, and the minute we want to, we could bail. It's gone. And the ETFs have to buy or sell Bitcoin based on the inflows or outflows.
can they give the owner of the ETF who sells cash but not get rid of the Bitcoin? Can they continue to hold the Bitcoin in their coffer?
They can, but they don't have a big window of that. They can maybe go 5% each direction, but there's going to be SEC regulations that make sure that you have the Bitcoin that you promised you do, but not an excessive amount. I mean, I guess BlackRock could sit there and hold it internally and then just sort of have a slush Bitcoin fund they move in and out of the ETF. But I don't think they want that risk. They don't want to hold the Bitcoin. They're in the business of facilitating buying and selling of it.
I don't know what the fund rules are for the Bitcoin, but funds generally will wash inbound and outbound flows against each other, and then so that they're not physically having to sell and buy for every single deposit or withdrawal or redemption. So, I got $1 million in, I've got redemptions of 600,000. I'm going to send out 600 and I'm going to invest the net 400 new money into the portfolio. That happens a lot with mutual funds. I don't know what the rules are for.
Yeah, you were talking about the 50,000 the other day. I just happened to open Coinbase when it was screaming right up to 50. And there were about 323 Bitcoin sitting there at the 50K, and it went up and it just smashed up against it 4 or 5 times and it was gone. It was amazing how the buys just took care of all of those just within 2 minutes. It was amazing.
Yeah. What was it, today or yesterday? I guess it was last night. Overnight, Bitcoin broke the $1 trillion market cap barrier again for the first time in 2.5, 3 years. And we were just making jokes about the size of Apple's market cap. What is it, 2.5 trillion or something? I mean, this is a historic asset with no cash flow, no earnings, no cash flow, no fundamental reason for it to have a 1 cent price, much less a $50,000 price, except for the fact that we all have been burned throughout our lives by the fiat currency regime in the country that we live in. And in the country that we live in, the 5 guys on this call is the best fiat currency that ever existed. It has been the longest holding value, great, unbelievable fiat currency relative to every other fiat currency that's ever existed, whether you're talking the euro, the dinar, the Roman crowns from 800 BC, they all suck. They all just get printed and the government steals your money. And Bitcoin, maybe the hackers at Mt. Gox stole some of my money and it's up to the tune back now. We're talking $250,000 I lost to the Mt. Gox guys. At the time it was $500. Now it's a lot more. But even so, that's my fault. That wasn't anybody else's fault. That was on me. I shouldn't have had it at Mt. Gox. You can keep this and nobody can steal or print more of the Bitcoins except according to the schedule.
That was my pitch to a couple of young aspiring crypto enthusiasts yesterday who wanted to learn about crypto, and you pretty much just summed up my.
I'll finish his sentence. His pitch.
Oh no! What
We
happened?
lost you.
Oh,
You're
okay.
froze. You're
Oh,
back.
there you are.
His
I
pitch.
finished your sentence
There
for
you
you.
go.
Don't worry about it, Kavada.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
I don't know what happened, but yeah, finished his pitch. So yeah.
You know, the movie Frozen, I think it's the one they say, we even finish each other's sandwiches.
Sandwich. Was that the dude and the donkey or whatever?
I don't remember.
animal?
I don't remember. I just remember the line. I thought it was funny. Stuck with me. Yeah. All right, guys. Last questions or comments. What do you got?
Let's go Ethereum. Yay. Also a nice chart. So.
Pull up. Can you compare? Can you put them both, the Ethereum and the Bitcoin, together on that trading view? There is a way up there at the top. Plus. Hit that plus button. Let's look at that. So the Bitcoin's the yellow line, the Ethereum's the red and green candles.
Yep.
They move in tandem, but not perfectly in tandem.
Oh, what is this? Oh, that's from the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
well,
Fascinating, though.
Interesting
You
how
really
it moves over time.
Always have to stretch the charts out to really see the truth of it.
From inception, there you go.
That was when Ethereum kicked off.
Looks like it, yes.
Because inception for Bitcoin is going to go way back before that.
Yeah.
You got to switch the comparable to the standard one if we wanted to see.
Yeah. Wish you would have bought when it was somewhere over there to the left on that little straight line.
Yeah.
Way over there.
The original miners.
Trading with Cody subscribers
Yes,
and
there we go.
myself were buying Bitcoin at $100 in 2013. I annoyed my subscribers because I spent like 2 months and half of what I wrote about every time was Bitcoin. I was like so excited about Bitcoin in 2013 and my subscribers got pissed. Some of them canceled. They were like, I'm not here for Bitcoin bullshit. Not here for this crypto nonsense.
And all they had to do was just get a few.
Nobody listened,
Yeah.
except for Cabana. Thank you.
I remember getting into all this when it was at 500. And instead of buying Bitcoin, I bought Litecoin instead. Well, that has been a miserable failure. So
Dang.
There's something to be said. You know, Bryce and I spend a lot of time going through our portfolio over and over and looking at our positions. And so many times the lesson is you buy the best, the biggest, the baddest one, and you're an American badass. So it should have been without saying that you bought the baddest.
yeah, I failed.
When American Badass coin.
Oh, soon.
Sooner than later, apparently.
Quick side note. Because of our experience building the SKTL, I'm constantly, not constantly, a lot of times I hear from people who are like, hey, I've got a crypto idea. And I get crypto ideas all the time. Most of the time, my eyes glaze over. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't have any time for that shit. But right now, I have a friend who used to be the chief of, I grew up with the kid who used to be the chief of the Mescalero Apache tribe. And he is, we've put together, Bryce has seen it, we put together a 8 to 10 page PowerPoint idea presentation thing for sovereign nation token. Sovereign nation wealth token. I can't remember what we called it, but something like that. And it's fascinating. The idea is sort of like SKTLs. We're not going to have any founder tokens. If we're going to do it, half the tokens are given out to individuals who can prove they are a member of a tribe, and half the tokens will go into a fund that then every year is donated to some of the tribes that are in need, and it'd be all for pro bono.
Well, on that note, with all the freedom and Texit talk, I got a couple buddies who actually made the Texan token. And
God.
What?
How's that working out?
It's actually doing pretty darn good. If you
What's the symbol?
Texan.
TXN?
No, like the word Texan.
TEXAN.
XAN.
Yeah.
TXAN. Why not? Why not?
Today-
I bet there's some founder tokens on there. That they probably didn't give that away to feed children, though, did they? That's what we're trying to do,
They're
Cabana.
supporting freedom, of course. But yeah. There we go.
Oh,
There
yeah. What, are they going to secede?
You never know. Maybe after the election, at least get the
Well,
electoral vote.
that's one state that couldn't survive. So
Yeah.
California wouldn't, but Texas would.
Yeah, I saw something about that. They would be the 16th largest economy in the world if they seceded or something. I don't.
Oh, I
know
think
exactly
they're
what it was.
higher than that. Yeah, I think.
They're like almost to Apple's market cap. Good night, everybody. Thank you. It's great to see you all. I'll see you guys next week, same time, same bat channel. We're gonna go look at how bad Fastly is. We own some puts. Good night.
Good night. Be well.